Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Life Pod. Today we have on Danny Grant, ex-nightclub owner and booze guy for probably over 2 decades now. He's dabbled into a lot of different things. Thank you very much for joining us today, man.
Thanks for having me down, boys.
Dude, it happens every time. We have this really sick chat before the cameras start rolling, and it's like, bro, we just dove into dove.
Dove.
Is that the right word?
Dove. You said it right.
Yeah, we dove into so many different things that are pretty much all interconnected, whether it be in the nightclub life, whether it be about people you know, the connections you can make. And there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad that comes with building an audience. And that's like obviously a really big thing we want to touch on. A lot of people have this, we say they push this notion of like, you know, quote unquote, being famous is like the best thing ever. And it's like, it's all good, it's all glamorous, and there's so much to it. But before we dive into that, for those who don't know who Danny is, if you had to sort of summarize, who is Danny? What does Danny do?
I'm an everything man. That makes sense. So, but effectively what I do is I focus on like nightlife, hospitality base is the kind of base, entertainment. But everything I've done dribbles down to entertainment. So I've run festivals, I've run nightclubs, I've done managed artists, record labels, whatever. And then what powers that is nightclubs, which is alcohol, and I work in alcohol. So effectively nightlife and entertainment is what I sort of specialize in.
How long have you been doing all of the entertainment side?
I started when I was 19. I think I was like just before I turned 19. So I've never actually had a proper other job. Like I literally worked at Woolworths part-time.
Yep.
I used to deliver towels to brothels for like a couple of months. And then I started
With Woolworths? Or was that separate?
I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense.
Hang on, was that with Woolies or that's separate?
Nah, separate. That wasn't a service that Woolworths provided.
Oh, fuck. I thought it was maybe like an under-the-table
So
thing.
my uncle used to do this thing where they'd pick them up in like these red bags.
The towels.
brothels,
Yeah, you'd hope you wouldn't be holding them.
Yeah, and then we'd pick them up, put them in the van, and they'd wash them. It was like a laundromat service.
Love that.
And then I would deliver them back. So I did that for a little bit, and that was prior to me working in clubs. So I was like, I was making money from it when I was 18, but like when I properly started doing it full time, I was like, I'd effectively 19. I think it was like August something that I started, and I turned 19 in September.
So the towel thing.
Go for it.
Was that before you got into the nightclub scene? Okay.
I didn't do it that long. It was probably like 5-6 weeks or something like that.
Okay. That's interesting. I just thought, all right.
That's a really good example of like, there's money to be made every fucking
Right,
way, man.
yeah,
Like, but you don't even
opportunity.
think of that shit.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. I'm like, how like you could do anything in the world. There's so many things to do. You know, like, and I'll find a guy recently that was like, I'm a what do you say? He's like, I'm a print. Basically, what he does is you give him print broker, right? So he's like, you give him printing, and then he'll go broker it around to other printing companies to see what's the cheapest, and he takes a cut.
Fuck,
And I was
excellent.
like,
That's
if that
a good
dude,
idea.
that's a fucking job. Yeah. This guy doesn't even have a printer. Yeah, like what's your excuse?
We had a guy last week. He was making like $3,000 a week selling cardboard boxes. He'd go to rubbish bins,
go to
get them,
rubbish
and then
bins.
sell them on Marketplace, like $3,000.
I just like honestly, like where there's a will, there's a way. Like there's actually no excuse. Like that's my opinion.
yeah, agreed.
So did you get into the clubbing scene first, or was it the alcohol first, and then they dove into each other?
So I started doing the club stuff just because I was going out heaps.
In Melbourne, sorry.
Yep, in Melbourne. And that's sort of how I ended up not working jobs, was because, you know, I was partying too much and I was pretty unreliable, waking up late, and then I was like, fuck. So work was getting in the way of fun. And then I was like, how do I make fun work, basically? So I kind of figured it out relatively quickly, and then I started running my own events and stuff. Before that, I worked as like a $3 on the door promoter.
Yeah.
And then I started running my own events, and you know I was making like at the time like $2,500-3,000 per event, which I thought I was like a millionaire, right? But then I was like, if I can keep doing these every week,
Yeah.
this could work out. And then I started running club nights and club events, and pretty quickly I was making some pretty serious cash at a young age doing that. But the alcohol thing didn't happen until COVID. Like when they closed down my club, because I actually bought a nightclub, obviously, had a bar too and different bits and pieces. When COVID shut us down, I had to figure out a way to pivot. So basically cocktails were booming, like all that pre-made cocktail shit. And then I was like, fuck it. You know, we sell wet pussy with my business partners who are also club owners. We sell bulk loads of wet pussy. Like, let's bottle this.
In COVID.
Yeah, in COVID. Let's bottle this and turn it into a pre-mixed shot, basically. And the story began there. And then now we've got like, you know, 10, 12 different brands. I think I've got like 3,000 or 4,000 square meters of factories in Keysborough. Like, it's humongous. Like, I ended up selling my club for it, blah, blah, blah. But like the pivot was that. But, you know, I'm still selling alcohol. I was selling alcohol. When I was a promoter, when I was running nightclubs, I was selling piss to people, but it was B2C. Now it's B2B. Yeah. So it's much the same. Like, people look at it and think it's this giant leap, but it's not really.
So the biggest question I was thinking is, how do you even like, where do you start? Like, if I'm a promoter, like I want to own a club, it's like, is it literally just who you know? Like, obviously you would have been in that scene, you would have spoke to the club manager, and then he knew someone. It's like, how do you make that step of like, I'm a promoter, now I'm going to own my own thing or start something.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting convo. Like, it's actually a funny thing that I've brought up, probably not publicly, but like I've said to people, but like I made more money as a promoter than I did club owner.
Really?
Yeah. So, and then it took me fucking 7 years after owning one that I realized to go back. So before I actually left, I still owned the club, but I actively wasn't working anymore. I was back being a promoter.
Yep.
But the thing was, why I sort of took that transgression was like, or that direction, I guess, was that I basically was like, I thought it was the next step. That makes sense. Like when you sort of start off, you know, you're
Climb
young.
the ranks.
Yeah, you're kind of young kid. You know, you have all these friends, and it's pretty easy. And then you kind of you look up to the club owners because they're like your bosses in a sense. And then I was like, well, okay, it's time for me to become one of them. And then once I did it, I was like, fuck, I should have stayed a promoter. Yeah. But how it happened was I kind of ran my own events inside someone else's club. So I'd take the door, I'd pay for the DJs, I'd pay for the door girl, marketing and photos. So I bring
And
the
the
people.
name.
Yep. And the name. So I bring the people to the club, they take the bar. Like that's normally how it worked. And then I was like, cool, continue to do so.
So the club would make money purely off the bar. You'd make money off everything else.
Because this
off
is the
tickets
thing,
and
man.
stuff.
Like people who buy bars traditionally aren't promoters. So it's two different things, right? So if I buy a bar, I'm a guy who understands, you know, I understand COGS, like cost of goods. I understand licensing. I understand security or whatever. Traditionally, right? And then I'm maybe a 50-year-old man or 45-year-old man, but so I need someone to bring audience. And it's like, because it's a pretty, you know, we're in Australia. It's not like there's not millions and millions of people here. So,
Yep.
so you need people who have community to bring their community into your venue. So that's why, you know, there's so many different genres. There's so many different nationalities. Like there's so many different event types. And someone owns that community and brings that community to the club, and then the club makes money off it. If they only have one community in their club, then they've got one night. So they can't continue to run, right? So they have to have multiple communities and multiple people from different sides of the city, different nationalities, different whatever, like different genre type, whatever, to come into the nightclub. So I sort of saved up, and then I had the opportunity to buy in to a club because I thought that was my next step. And then when I did, I used all my money that I'd made from promoting the door to do that. I stopped promoting as much at the time, and then pretty quickly within like a year, I was still running events and shit all over fucking Melbourne, the country really, did stuff in New Zealand, all over the world basically. But yeah, so that was the next step, and that's how I did it and wanted to. But effectively, it was like did my apprenticeship. If that makes sense. But when I owned the club, I was the promoter, so it was a unique position because you know I was young, I made a lot of money, and I was able to get in there. So I was hosting these kids, I was giving shots at the bar, I was actually the face of the club back then. But as you get older, it's harder to be the face. So you need to bring someone else in.
So when was all this? What year? In the sense of you stopped your promoting and then you started your own. What year are we talking?
What year is it now? 2024.
2024.
So it's probably like 2015 maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Nah, actually, I can tell you when it was. It was 12. It was 2013 because I was 25.
Jesus.
That's how old I am. Fuck.
No, that's that's not at all. Looking on your social media, you say that community is a massive part to what you do, and you're a big believer in that.
Community is everything. There's not like other than like a trades and shit, but anything to do with brand. If you don't have community, you don't have a brand.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. And obviously that's what we strive with what we do here, and we've got our own community, which is fantastic. I guess the question is, back then in 2013, 2014, how now it's a lot easier, social media, Instagram, pages, whatever. Back then in 2013, 14, how are you maintaining that community? Like how are you growing that
giveaways, small
community?
events? Obviously,
Yeah,
it's
so
mainly Facebook.
I was real big on like not giving value, which sounds weird, right? So a lot of people are like value. So I was always like, no drink specials, no free entry, no whatever. Because in my head it was like, if my brand's good enough, you want to come. So like,
Agreed, yeah.
That's how I always was sitting there. So a lot of guys that did what I did, they'd be like, $5 drink specials, you know, buy two, get one free entry, like rah. And I was like, nah, like I'm not racing to the bottom of the barrel. So
Yeah,
I
fact.
would create these brands, and then I was like, and they would dominate. And everyone was like, how the fuck is this guy doing it? They're charging bulk, like, you know, expensive door charge. They're charging heaps at the bar. And I was like a venue owner's best friend. They loved me. Like not just me, my team. Like there was myself and another guy called Kyle Hand and another guy called Andreas Mango. Still do it now to this day. And they loved us because we had really high bar spends. We never asked for discounts, and we bought big amounts of crowds. Like we would bring anything from 1,000 to 2,000 people to people's clubs. But what we did was before, like 2013, still Facebook was still like around. But prior to that, man, it was no shit, text messages. Like
I was
we
gonna
would-
say, yeah.
yeah, we'd be like, I just shoot out like who was playing at the club, who's coming, and like all this sort of different stuff. But the other one was just like, I don't know, when you're in that position where I guess you're standing at the front, like you can come in, you can do this, you can do that. you start to see these people weekly and whatnot, or maybe not, like bi-weekly, whatever, but you start to know a lot of people pretty quickly. And I guess you become the hub of that community. So the brand is not you, the brand is the brand, but you are like, you're the keys to the brand. Does that make sense? So if they want to come or they want to be involved in it or whatever, like they know to access you, and then you give them access to the brand. Does that make sense? So my big thing was always like, make brands that people want to be a part of, and then the community will come, right?
What's the strategy with that though? Making a brand that people want to join, is that just purely network and rapport with everyone and building that, or is that, strategically getting, say, X, Y, Z people to attend that night to create that? Is there a strategy there?
There is
for
definitely
it?
a strategy. So, and this is like giving away the sauce, but whatever. I don't do it anymore.
Right, I mean, it's
so
up
guys,
to you.
go fucking copy this. But what I used to do was like, so I used to do multiple genres. Like I'd do like Psytrance, Tech House, commercial. We were very disruptive. And most people stick to one genre. Like they'll just sort of just do Psytrance or just do rap or just do whatever. We didn't do that. So we did everything. But what I would do was I was like, cool. So, when you look at cultural community, say, let's use hip hop, for example, there's a certain shoe they wear. There's a certain dress sense they have. There's a certain look they have. There's a certain artist they like. So for me, it was really easy to look at that and replicate what these guys were looking at. Because if you look at, the top 10 songs and you look at their album covers, they all basically look the same. So then what I would do is I would create a flyer that looked like that album cover. And then I would get people, then I would go find people who looked like the people that these people were aspiring to be. And then I would convince them to come.
That's
so
fun.
I would create an environment.
Makes perfect sense.
I would create an environment that they were watching online, and then that was real. So they'd come, and then these DJs would play, and they'd play the music they wanted. And then the people that they looked up to or followed on Instagram or whatnot were there. Yeah, and then the brand looked exactly the same as all their favorite album covers. And then what would happen was it would work. Yeah, that was as simple as what it was for me.
Selling the
That's
experience.
like a little club matrix thing going on.
Yeah, but we used to do like Psytrance, and then we'd be outdoors in this weird ass place with fucking giant jellyfish hanging from the roof and strobes. Yeah, and then we would do R&B, which was like boosts and like, very good fashion and rah. Then we'd do commercial, which was like highlights and like radio hits. Like it was pretty, and that was bright colored, and then you'd use like a attractive female on the fly. Like it was really, really easy. It was kind of like fishing, if that makes sense.
It sounds like in that alone, there's a lot of psychology there.
And honestly, that's the thing. Like I'd say kind of the cheat code was for me, and I guess this is something I haven't said before, but I read a lot of sales psychology books. I still do. So I was always like, if I can figure out why people do things, then it's going to be easy to make them do it. So I still do this now. Like I've read like, Art of Clearer Thinking. If I had to name off the top of my head, there's another one called The Tipping Point. There's all these different ones where they explain why people do things, like auctions, why people go to things, why do people want to be a part of communities. Once I figured that out, it was really 1 + 1. So I was like, people aren't that hard to crack. And there's like, 10% of people are actually like, they're breaking the wave and doing different things. The other 90% are just along for the ride.
Yeah. That's crazy. I'm massive on psychology with business and marketing. I think it's huge.
It's a cheat code. It's honestly a cheat code.
Yeah. If you can figure out obviously first you need to understand who the people is that you're targeting.
Yep.
And then with that, why, how and why. And then if you put something together like what you did, it just breeds success. So
I always say to people when the people like, I'd say, it's a random example, but I want to start up a fishing brand. And I'm like, you're living in the best time ever. You can start up a Facebook page or a TikTok or an Instagram where you post other people's fishing pages.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they watching catching fish. You can build an audience without anyone knowing who you are because you're giving these people what they want, then sell them something. This has never existed before. It's never been easier. So it's like to create like a brand or create some sort of like, something that people want to be a part of is never easy. You can do it from behind a screen now.
I think before we move on to how you sort of transitioned from the entertainment part to the other businesses that you currently do, and then obviously larger entertainment now, where did it all stem from, that motivation and drive for you to be able to be like, all right, I want to make good money at clubs. Because there's a lot of people in, currently where there's no drive there, or they just don't know the next direction, or they don't have any sort of motivation to take that next step, or they don't see the priority in sort of setting yourself up financially and having your business and all that sort of stuff too. Where do you think that stemmed from for you personally, being 19, getting in the club scene, speaking to all those people, all that sort of stuff, then immediately being like, all right, I want to jump on the next step and, purchase or do my own sort of nightclub thing. And then from there, grow and grow and grow to what sort of you are now.
Mine's an interesting story because, a lot of people sit here and be like, I wanted money, I want this, I want that. Like mine's not really that. Yeah. And so I grew up with nothing. Like I was like a very poor family, like, Single mum, didn't have anything. Like I literally had holes in my shoes, all that kind of shit. Like when I'd get one pair of shoes every birthday, and they had to last. So there was two parts to it. One was obviously want, yeah. And so I was like, fuck, I don't want to live like that. So I don't want to live like where I can't go to school camps because we can't afford it. I don't want my kids to live like that. So that was one part of the motivator. But the actual real honest motivator was that I just felt like I was like a square peg trying to slam into a circle hole, even young. Like when everyone was talking about becoming an electrician or doing this or doing that, I was like, I don't want to do this. Yeah, this sounds fucked. And then when I did try it out and I had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go to work and stuff, I was like, this is fucked. This is
Fuck.
But I was like, if this is life, like fucking sign me out. Yeah. Like, and then so my drive was legitimately like, I want to do what I wanted. If that makes sense. And I feel like that's how I kind of fell into a project where I was partying and I had fun. And then from there, majority of those things is like, yes, it's obviously income based. I make money and I make money. I've got businesses that are worth now millions and millions of dollars. But it's like the reality was like, is this going to be fun? Which is fucked. Not that motivational, but is this going to be fun? And then how flexible am I to do what I want? Yeah. Like, and I'm lucky that I love to work. So it's like for me, it's like, someone goes and plays basketball after they do their job they hate. For me, I'm like, man, wake up in the morning, I get to like make a brand for an alcohol and try and break it into Dan Murphy's. Yeah. Like, so I unfortunately have like, not unfortunately, it's obviously fortunately, but like I had this kind of like weird makeup hack in my brain that I enjoy creating brands. I enjoy working. I enjoy the hustle. I enjoy the wins, like those micro wins. I get a mad high. Like if I hit something, book an artist or, get into a new chain of alcohol, I fucking love it. Like I get a rush out of it. So I'm lucky that, I could have been a drug and alcohol addict or a gambling addict, but I got addicted to like business success. And then that's what sort of drove me. But the money thing has been a second thing. It's been a lifestyle thing for me. And I don't want shit. Like that's the thing. I don't want a Lambo. I don't want any of that stuff, like which is odd to people. Down the track, no doubt I could probably get them, but I'd rather, make sure that my kids and my missus is taken care of and that I'm an experienced guy. Yeah. Like I want to fly around the world and not work that much.
Yeah. Do you think it's those little micro wins? Do you think it's because, you're making like other people happy as well as yourself too? Is that what it is too? Or is it more sort of you just like, cause you set yourself a goal and you got there?
I think it's always like trying to prove myself to myself. If that makes sense. Like how far can I go? In my personal life, I boxed when I was younger, and it wasn't really about like I wasn't an aggressive guy or anything like that. Like legitimately for me it was like I'm scared of this. Can I do it? Yeah, and there's a lot of those things in my life where I'm like I'm scared of doing this, so now I need to do this. Like diving for argument's sake, like I'm scared of cave diving, so now I got to cave dive. So for me, it's like not that I'm scared per se, but I've always I like to challenge myself. So like I'm like, can I do this? Like these things seems like so far out of my reach, and then I just do it. Yeah, like I'll prove it to myself and then I make another stupid fucking goal and then I try to achieve that. So it's like, from my head, it's like, how far can I take this life? How far can I go? And where do I eventually like stop? So far, so good, it hasn't happened. And I'm just going to continue to do that. But like some of the goals I have are just outrageous. And I'd say probably delusional, but like in saying that, I think you can't be successful if you're not delusional.
I think that's a really big thing. A lot of, pretty much almost every guest we've had on here has said, like your goals almost have to, even to yourself, have to seem like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Like that's a little bit actually out of reach. Because if it's sort of too easy, then it's like, there's no challenge, there's not a lot of work that has to go into it. But I think a really big thing that you said is, one, the fear, but two, like, I'm just going to do it. I was having this chat with a mate yesterday, and it's just like, I was just driving in traffic, and I was like, imagine how many people were sitting around me in their cars that have this really big dream of starting a business or doing whatever, and they just don't fucking do it because it's like that, but maybe if this happens or if it doesn't. But it's also like, well, you're just going to your 9-to-5 job, whatever it is, you're getting your salary, you're going home. Or like you could try the business, it could fuck up and you could move on and go back to your job. But it's like the net outcome is still the same. If you just gave it a shot, you probably learned a bunch of shit that you can just apply for the rest of your life, which I feel like a lot of people don't have that mindset. They just go, well, if there's a risk of like loss, I'm just going to leave it and like just can it instead of going, like weighing out the pros and cons and like not understanding that a net loss is not actually a net loss. It's just a lesson learned that you can move forward with.
It's like, I think you learn to train yourself to be uncomfortable. Like, hence why I use those examples from boxing and diving. Yeah, like those things were great for me because they made me uncomfortable, and then I overcome that uncomfort. When you run a business, it makes you feel uncomfortable. Yeah, like you go into a place that you don't know if you're going to make money, you don't know if there's a revenue stream in it, and then you have to take that jump, no less than jumping in a ring or something like that. And then the outcome is either like you fall backwards and you learn, or you win. Yeah, and I look at it like that, like you said, the lesson thing, but it is for me. So it's like you don't fail, you learn or you win. Yeah, that's how I look at it. So, but obviously you got to make those calculated decisions. Like it's not a smart idea to use every single dollar and remortgage your house and sell your car. It's like you got to be able to lose what you could afford to lose, so you
exactly
can
right.
continue to forward. But I think the idea of working for someone else is scarier.
I was just about to say the 9 to 5 for me scares the shit out of me more than not doing anything.
It blows my mind. I'm like, there's some random guy like you know, or maybe don't know, or whatever, has control of your life. Like, and you, for some unknown reason, you feel more comfortable with that. Like that blows my mind. So it's like with me, it's like if I'm not making enough money, I want to buy something, I want to go to Tokyo, I've got to figure out how to make more money. It's like I get to choose if I want to like have some time off and I've got money in the bank, I can. Yeah, like whereas like if you're working for some guy, it's like
Annual
this guy.
leave and all this shit.
But not only that, this guy might make a bad decision or get ripped off by a builder and you lose your job. Like you've got zero control. Like it blows my
Yeah,
mind.
they say security, but is it actually secure?
It blows my mind with banks and stuff how they're always like, oh, you know, they'll give you money if you work for someone else, but if you work for yourself, they
Yeah.
won't. Oh, well, how does
How does that fucking work?
this guy has no control of his outcome? Like,
Yeah.
and so you're like, oh, we'll give you money because your boss that we don't even know who could be a gambler or like, you know, who makes bad decisions. That's secure, but we're not going to give you boss money. Like it makes zero sense.
Yeah.
That was the thing for me. I resonated when you said, you know, you were in high school, you saw all these people doing their jobs, sparking builder, whatever it is. For me, I saw that too. I was like, I don't want to do that. And for me too, it was like an authority thing. I hated being in high school, having some teacher, you know, on a $50,000 salary telling me what to do and telling me that I'm stupid or I'm not going to make it, all that sort of shit too. So for me, it was like, I don't want to be told what to do. I want to do purely what I want to do in life on my own accord, similar to what you just said too. So I resonated with you when you said all that sort of stuff.
I think the biggest one that stuck with me, from school, is just the fact that there isn't, like, again, multiple ways to skin a cat. Whether it be making money, whether it be, again, how many clothing brands, how many alcohol brands is there? They're all doing shit in a different way. It's like, that just goes to show there's no right way to do a certain thing. You just keep trying, you persevere. There's going to be wins and losses along the way. But it can be done as long as you keep learning from the fuck-ups that have happened.
And you don't give up. That's
Exactly
the
right.
thing. People like they throw in the towel. Like it's like if you throw in the towel, you lose. If you don't throw in the towel, you don't lose. You continue to play. Yeah, like and like that advice is sort of, you know, don't be retarded again. Go back into a position where you lose your house and shit.
Don't be
this-
retarded.
That's
That's me.
but at the same time, it's like, you know, only businesses I've failed at are the ones that I've given up on.
Yeah.
You know, any ones that I've just been like, nah, knuckle down, keep going. Where there's a will, there's a way. But yeah, and the school thing's a wild thing to me, man. Like they obviously go through that whole process and rah, but it's like, why are they not teaching us how to do tax? Like, why are they not teaching us how to like these like real common things? Like, I know I'm in my 30s now, and my mates don't know nothing about like business tax, and I know because I've learned.
They don't want you to know.
And I'm teaching them backwards, but there's so many things. It's like people call up, I'm like, how do you do this? I'm like, how the fuck are they not teaching this? Even food, man. Like in my school, like I don't know what it's like now, but we got taught fuck all really about what was good and bad for you. And now people are telling about calories and deficits and macros. I don't even know what these things are. Yeah, like why wasn't I taught that in school? Yeah, like
We learn
that's
about
more
like
important
matrices
than
and shit.
yeah. But
Pythagoras.
like how to take care of myself, what's good and bad for me is probably more important than fucking algebra.
Yeah, literally. It's like there's so many things. It's like the curriculum is so filled with things that are like not so much further ahead than what we need to be, but just things that literally aren't relevant. It's
It's
like
just waste of time.
nobody knows how to fill up coolant in their car, change a tire,
Yeah.
do their taxes, literally learn how to like recycle things, whatever, like shit that actually you need in a day-to-day life, pay your electricity bills, what's a good interest rate if you're
Yep.
financing something. It's like we're learning all these things that literally have zero relevance to day-to-day life or even just being a business owner. It's like literally, again, we all say it, whatever you want to call it, the matrix or I guess you could say, the curriculum is just pushing you to literally be like a slave of society. It's like you go to work, you just do what you're told, you get your money, you go home and you sleep. And it's like we're sort of in this business world now where we feel like it's so normal, but we're actually such a small minority.
Yeah, very.
And like, again, the knowledge we know about tax and all these different things seems so normal to us. But again, it's like you speak to a person who has a job and they go, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this doesn't even make sense.
Well, there's a crazy thing about that, right? So it's like I went to, as I said, I kind of like come from a rougher area and it was a shit school and rah. So like when I was growing
If you don't
up,
mind saying, what school did you go to?
I went to multiple schools because, you know, it's a bit silly. But there's the one that I spent probably like 8 years at, which is the most, was a school called Broadford, which is like out towards past Craigieburn. It's like a small kind of like low socioeconomic town, basically. But when I moved, so I actually got kicked out of school and I moved down to a place called Vermont, which is like more people, they're more
Vermont?
affluent. Yeah, they're more affluent. So I went from one extreme to the other. And then the conversations I saw was that the people I was growing up with, they were talking about how to like dodge, like, you know, pretend to break up with your partner so you get more money from Centrelink, or like how to get more vouchers for food. Yeah, like, so when I went to Vermont, people were talking about investments in houses and stuff. But why I'm saying that school thing is like, if that was in the system, like rich people kind of have, and I shouldn't say rich people, but people who are like well off or families have done well or whatever, the knowledge is what makes these kids richer. Because then their dads go, oh, you got to buy it this time. This is a good interest rate. This is how you do. This is how you make your money. This is how you buy stocks and bonds. Yeah, like when you're a poor kid, no one knows that. That language is foreign. If they taught that in school and everybody knew that stuff, then everyone's on an even playing field. Yeah, and I don't want to be like a conspiracy here, but like, if they could say, guys, this is how you do this is how you invest, this is how you do whatever, all of a sudden there's no head start anymore.
Yeah, it's just like what you were exposed to. And I remember when I was like doing a bit of research about you, like obviously your upbringing and with your uncles and that sort of thing. It's like there's things that about certain substances or certain things, or whether it be guns and jail and stuff. It's like if you spoke to a rich kid, they'd literally just freak out. Probably never seen a gun, never heard of it, don't know what cocaine is, whatever it is. And it's like it's just literally what you brought up and what you're exposed to becomes sort of the norm.
It's really true, because I'll like tell stories that I think are normal to like guys that I work with now, and they're like what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I was like, like even again, like I'll say this on record, but like I've got multiple mates who went to jail, multiple mates that were killed. Sorry, not killed, that died. So I'll say it again. I've got multiple mates who went to jail. I've got multiple mates that have passed away, from all different things that have happened. But that to me was normal. Like, and most of the people I know who lived in where I've grown up, or went to a public school and whatnot, that's pretty normal. They know someone who went to jail. They know someone who died young, or maybe overdosed or whatever. Whereas these kids in these other systems, they don't. And so like I'll say that, like I've got a funeral for a friend, or I've got one of my mates just got out of jail, we're going out for dinner with him or whatever. And they're like, what the fuck? Because that's so foreign to them. But you're
right. It's like in a movie to them. It's like, this doesn't happen.
But to me, I thought that was just the same for everybody.
Yeah, literally 100% right.
I think there's sorry, excuse me. I think there's a power in like having that street smart though, and then also the investment side.
For sure,
too.
100%.
Yeah.
Because you get good gut feels too. Like you meet someone and you're like, like as I just spoke to you guys about before, like when that happened, when that happened to me, my spidey senses were tingling, and I'm like, these guys are taking the piss out of me. Yeah. Like if I didn't have that street smart, maybe I don't put those pieces together. So there's a lot of times where you meet someone and you're like, I don't like this guy's vibe. I don't like this guy's feeling. Something's a bit dodgy going on here. So you kind of get to avoid uncomfortable situations, or, maybe dealing with people who aren't the people you should be dealing with. When I say that, I mean like, dodgy people, like as in dodgy, rip you off, steal from you kind of guys. You sort of get this second sixth sense where you're like able to recognize it beforehand.
Yes, that's so true.
And I think that if you haven't kind of grown up in that space, then you're more at risk of falling into those traps probably.
One question I had was, because you sort of grew up around that sort of stuff, and obviously you can see how easy it is to make money that way, like short amount of time. What was the thing for you that said, like in your head, that made you go, nah, I'm not going to do this, even though like it's such an easy fucking down ball. Like, all right, man, I can make a few hundred G's in a few months.
Yeah.
I'm going to do things right and not fall into that trap.
A good question. Like no one's ever asked me that. But I have thought about it. So basically I was doing stupid shit. Yeah. And like so, and between you and I was doing things like breaking into football clubs and stealing alcohol and selling it. I was selling fucking cigarettes. I was doing all these different bits and pieces. So I was doubling in that shit. Like, and it was again normal, the stuff that I was doing. But I was like, I quickly kind of realized that I was making money from like washing cars. Yeah. At the same time, I was making money from like flipping shit, selling stuff at a garage sale and selling it somewhere else. I was making money from selling soft drink at school, like things that weren't necessarily like bad.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, okay, well, there's no negative outcome from these. With these ones, watching friends more so than me, they're getting in trouble. Yeah. Like they're getting charged. They're like looking at jail time, things like that. So I was like, cool, it's the same principle. Yeah, like these things that these guys are doing, or, I was participating in, they're the same principle as these things that I'm doing that aren't illegal, that make exact the same amount of money. Yeah, it might be not as quick and it's not as easy to do, but it's the same fucking principle. So I basically used those principles to start my businesses. And I'm like, I look back at it now, I'm like, all this stuff that I did that I don't necessarily regret because it made me who I am, but like I shouldn't have probably done. I look back at it and go, well, that was my business course. People go to uni and do 4 years of business. Like I learned how to like do naughty things, but it was the same shit. You get a product, you sell it. Yeah, and like you put a margin on it, you make money off it. It's the same shit as like traditional business. It's no different.
Yeah.
So it's like you can really, if you're able to have the opportunity to, you can use street smarts to be really aggressive business guy. Yeah, like it's the same thing, man. Like you're dealing with people, you're selling stuff to people, you're having conversations, it's hospitality, it's relationships, it's networks, it's all the same shit. Yeah.
And I'm sure we all probably know someone who, again, was in let's say the field of, let's say, selling drugs or something like that, and then they've gone into actual business and they always do really well because it's like
it's the same process.
It's the exact same thing.
You get something, you'll make it into more You put your margins on it.
Minus the stress tax.
Yeah, but they don't have to go to jail. Like that's it.
Yeah, how good's that?
Yeah, but that's the bonus, right?
Yeah.
So yes, it's maybe you don't make as much money as quick, but one's got a really severe outcome, which is like death or jail. The other one is like positive. You get to change your life, and people want to hear you yarn. Yeah, and so I quickly kind of realized watching the people around me that the outcomes weren't that great. And I was like, well, I can just use these same principles I've learned from watching them or participating here and there to do it in real life business and continue to succeed. But definitely, they were my uni lecturers, like guys that were drug dealers and guys that were like doing bad shit. They were the people that I fucking learnt my crash course in business from 100%.
When you made that decision to sort of go the other way, did you find yourself drift from them, or would they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So like, I still I would say no, I don't really associate with many of them now. Like what actually happened was I started to like, and this is the thing, I don't want to sugarcoat it, where it was like this point where I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a good guy now. Yeah. And like, it was legitimately where I sort of would try and then I felt, and I'd go back and hang out with this crowd again. And, you know, we were doing the same thing, but it's like, it's hard when you're living in an environment where everyone's doing the same shit, like, you know, street fighting and you're doing all this dumb shit together and like they're your mates. Yeah. And so like you're getting in these situations, but once I did, and I know people say this, like, you know, a bird still feather flock together, but like I started to hang out with guys I went to high school with that weren't like that. Yeah. Like, and then they were like, had better goals and probably better parents and stuff. And when I started to hang around them, you wouldn't believe it, but I started to become like that. And then now I hang around with most of my friends are business owners. Most of my friends are successful entrepreneurs. Most of my guys, friends are artists and whatnot. So it's like, I'm now attracted to them and I hang out with them, and I do know some of these guys from my past life, and I definitely don't look down on them. Like that's the thing. A lot of people are like, fuck these guys. I went, no, like it's situational, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, I look at it and go, definitely who you hang around with definitely makes a big impact, because the conversations change, man. Like I'll hang out with some of the guys I used to hang out with, and the conversations are very negative. They're not like, there's not a lot of positivity, talking about bashing people, doing all that sort of shit, whatever. And then I hang out with my mates that, you know, have businesses and stuff like me, and we're talking about how to get rich. This guy did this new government thing you can get involved in. We're talking about how to like be better. So it's all positive chit chat, not negative.
I think a big thing there is, and based on my own experience as well, is that like whether you still got friends from your past that do that sort of stuff, it's like there's no hate towards them, there's no like disrespect. It's just like you still love them as a brother, but then everything else you just sort of brush to the side. It's like, I love you, Danny, as a person. You've got a good heart. You've never fucked me over or anything like that. You want to still go around and do your dumb shit. That's completely up to you. But it's like you can sort of still have that connection with them and not sort of like I said, look down on them, because I feel like that's a really big thing as well.
Unfortunately, man, like when people seem to do that stuff, to be honest, a lot of it's to do with drugs. Yeah, and so they're on drugs. When people make bad decisions, most of the time there's some form of like substance abuse.
Yeah.
So like, you know, take those situations and those substances away from those people. They're probably not going to be doing that stuff. So it's like everybody makes mistakes. That's how I look at it. And like, you know, I've made my own mistakes too. Yeah, and no doubt. So I don't want to look at people and go, well, we're going to write that guy off. Yeah, and so because it's fucking, in my opinion, it's like it's the complete opposite of what people are trying to achieve. We're trying to rehabilitate people, and then people are like, oh, you know, 10 years ago that guy did something wrong. You know, like I just find that such a like really weird and negative way of thinking. It's like we shouldn't be doing the opposite. If that guy wants to get a job or start a business, we should be like propping him up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right.
Agreed.
Exactly right. And usually it's the people, even sometimes it's family. I'm sure you probably went through like family, mum, dad, uncle. They go, oh, I want to start this business. And because they haven't been exposed to anything like that, or they're scared. They'll go, oh, are you sure? Like, is it going to make money? Like, what happens if you lose all this money? And it's like they're not willing to, they can't grasp the concept again of starting something again. They think it's this security of having this job and just like staying in that circle and not being able to branch out. And that's why they don't mean to be negative, but it's just based on their experiences and what they know. They'll sort of somewhat hold you back, even if it comes from a place of love. Like, I remember when I went through it, when I first started my business, mum's like, oh, are you sure? You know, is it going to work out? You just have to just sort of say, you know what? It'll be fine, even though you don't know if it will. But again, based on the way they grew up and their poor upbringings or whatever it might be, that's all they know. And it's like you can't change based on what they've been through.
I've said it before, man. It's like your biggest naysayers are like the people you love. Yeah, like, which is unfortunate. And I'm like, one of my pieces of advice is that if you're looking at doing something off the beaten track, is sort of don't listen to them. Yeah, and I know it's hard to say that, but your friends will. And they do, like you said, it comes from a good place a lot of the time. Sometimes it's jealousy, but a lot of the time it comes from a good place where they're worried about for you. But it's like you can't live your life by other people's actions, if that makes sense. So give it a fucking go. And then afterwards, I've said it before, when I first started doing stuff, a lot of people would look at me and be like, what's this guy doing? You get a real job. It's crazy. But once I hit it, then everyone was telling everyone that knew me. That makes sense. So,
Oh yeah, I remember Danny said he was going to do that, man. We went to high school together.
exactly. So it's like if you don't stop listening, then you're never ever going to take that plunge.
And this is something I saw in a video you did with, I forget his name, the gentleman from the Hope Cartel.
Gaz.
Gaz. You said you've always got to back your own ideas and you can never doubt yourself because...
As soon as you doubt,
Yeah, because again, that's what you feed yourself and that's usually what happens, like the law of attraction. But like I said, especially even if it's going to come from family, that is usually going to be almost like a bit of a block saying, hey, don't do it. Maybe it fucks up. So that's why you've really got to double down and back yourself.
And again to kind of like put emphasis on that point is the doubting, right? I still do, yeah. But then I say to myself, stop fucking doubting. So it's like basically what I do is I'll sit there and like I'll wake up in the morning. I'm like, am I doing, especially this content stuff like I've talked about before. There's times when I'm like, is this good? Like, what am I doing? And then I'll just sit there and go, nah, fucking snap out of it. This is what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to achieve. We have an objection. We got a goal. Move on. You're like, and I have to like that self-talk is kind of aggressive to myself, but I'm not Superman. I wake up and I have doubts. Like everybody does. But it's just about how you can overcome them. Again, feeling comfortable being uncomfortable.
It's that self-awareness. Again, catching yourself out when you know you're not doing the right thing
Everybody
or when you're going against your own word is a fucking huge thing. Yeah,
if you can't, you're an animal. Yeah, like good on you. But like everybody I know has self-doubt, man.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes it's good to have mentors, like people you can call up and be like, hey, I'm worrying about this. Am I making the right decision? And I'm lucky that I've got lots that I can call up and they're like, no, talk me through it. Or they can be like, mate, this is the dumbest idea you've ever had. Mm-hmm. So having some good people around you kind of goes back to that point. But like being able to talk to them and value their opinion and know that they probably know more than you is like a really, really good asset to have.
Yeah.
I feel like though when you have those conversations, like if someone turns around and says, mate, this is the stupidest idea you have, it needs to be like, here's why, like this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason.
You have a good mentor that always do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel the exact same.
I've got one. He's actually Dom Dollar's manager. So I don't know if you guys know Dom Dollar.
Really?
He's one of them, and he's actually younger than me. But we kind of cut together. When I say younger, like by a year. So I call him all the time, but he's the GOAT, man. Like I'll be like, oh, I've been thinking this, and this, and he's like, yeah, you could, or you could do it this way. And then he explains it to me, and then by the end of it, I'm like, you're a fucking genius.
How old's Dom Dollar?
Dom would be like 33, 34.
Oh, okay.
And so his manager's like, I reckon he's like, I don't know, mid to late 30s. But we kind of did very much the same trajectory. Been good friends for a long time. Still talk really regularly, but he's my guy. Like if I've got something going on, I need to like vent to someone that I respect, I'll give him a call. And the guy's a fucking genius. Obviously, you can see his accolades don't they sit beside him.
Yeah, well, to be able to managing someone, I mean, Dom Dollar's huge now. Like,
that was the crazy thing with that is like that was all planned. Like it didn't just come out of nowhere. Yeah.
I feel like it has to be to some extent though. You have to have that plan in place to, I saw him last year in Ibiza, which was crazy.
Wild.
Oh, it was nuts. It was off its head. Have you ever been?
No, I haven't. No, it's weird. It's like, people talk about like going overseas, like you wouldn't build a house. Like for me, when I go overseas, which is strange, I don't really go out because like I'm on holidays. Yeah. And so like when I'm in Melbourne, I go clubbing. I've seen Duck Walls. I've seen Music and Lights. Like I probably will now that I've stopped doing it. Like, now that I've retired and I'm like, not retired, but like, I'm not doing events. Now I'd be keen to go to Ibiza. Now I'd be keen to go to Berlin. But when I was doing it 4 nights a week, the last thing I wanted to do was go fucking clubbing in another country.
Yeah, fair. That's fair enough. I think the last sort of 5-10 minutes, all the discussion we had, there was a massive thing around environment and the people that you are around have a massive impact on who you are and how you move forward. Obviously, coming from a rough upbringing with a lot of things happening to you, that wasn't, the best environment. What was it, do you reckon, for yourself sort of internally that said, okay, I need to move in sort of this direction and I need to open that door rather than open the other door and head down that path?
It was probably meeting my wife. There's that saying, like, behind every good man is a good woman.
Yeah.
For me, that is definitely the case. So she had lived a different lifestyle to me. So, like, when I met her and she had that, like, platonic family, mum, dad together, houses, all that sort of stuff. Like, I looked at it and I was like, fuck, man.
Like, what is this place?
Wow. I can remember. So I remember this is like a wild yarn, but that's my thing. But anyway, there's I had sort of like I moved a lot. Like I lived in like 17, different houses. So I was living with my nan.
17 to 18?
Yeah. So I was living with my nan, kind of got, not the boot, but like, asked to leave in a polite way. Then I went and lived with an auntie. I was sleeping on a couch and then I didn't have a job at the time, so I couldn't afford the rent. So instead of like facing up to it, because I was like 18, I just started sleeping in my car and couch surfing, right? So I was legit basically homeless, right? So then when I and I like kind of lived out of a garbage bag, which is pretty sad. But I didn't. Cause now I know this because I've sort of done the work. But I never used to have more than like a garbage bag full of shit because I was so used to moving. And it was like this psychology thing that I never bought shit or collected things. I still don't really do it now because I knew that I was gonna have to move again. Yeah, because that was
You
where
don't
I
want to
grew up.
carry all your shit.
Or
So-
more from the things that you just need your necessities.
Yeah, and that's how I was just like, I move on and work it out sort of thing. So I remember when her family were like, you can come live with us, right? So I went and lived with them, and I remember we stayed in this house and we had like Foxtel, and I was like, what the fuck is this? They had Wi-Fi, they had Foxtel, and they were like eating 3 meals a day. I was like, this is heaven. So at that point, it was like, it goes back to environment, but I'm like, I've lived this whole life where I don't know where my next meal is going to be, where am I going to sleep? Am I going to move again? Can I put my belongings out because am I going to be here that long? To this environment where, they're eating 3 meals a day, they're having roast on Sunday, they got Foxtel and Wi-Fi, and I was like, fucking sign me up. So that was actually the thing that happened to me. I was like, I saw that and I'm like, this is what I want. This is what I want my life to look like. Yeah. And this is what I want my kids' lives to look like. So that's been a big thing for me. But it comes with like a really weird situation is that I'm kind of really bad imposter syndrome. So my kids go to a good school now. My missus's family, I feel like I don't fit in. It sort of sounds weird. Like it's a sort of a strange thing to kind of bring up, but like, I don't talk to the parents and stuff, but the reason why I don't is that I just feel like I shouldn't be there. Yeah, and like because
You still got that inner hood in you, like
Yeah.
I'm not a part of this.
and so I'm like, I don't want to embarrass my kids. Yeah, and like so I don't talk to these people, and they probably think I'm being rude or snobby, but I'm like, they're gonna figure it out. Yeah, and like I'm not supposed to be here, sort of thing. So because of that, I give them all the opportunities in the world and the best, and same as my wife and whatnot. But I don't necessarily take them myself. Like I would rather hang around like Gaz from TikTok,
Yeah.
than I would some rich guy. Yeah, so-
It feels like they've been through the same things again. Like again, you talk about your past and things that clubbing, that sort of thing. These, like you say, rich parents would be like, "What the fuck's this guy on
But
about?"
they don't judge you. Yeah. And so it's like if I'm hanging out with a guy, it sounds bad, that's been in jail, and I say something, he's not going to judge me.
Yeah, he
and
gives a fuck.
But if I hang out with some guy who's lived like some prestigious life,
Yeah.
and he's had Wi-Fi and fucking Foxtel his whole life, and I say something out off the cusp, there's a good chance he'll judge me. So I just sort of don't put myself in the situations.
Yeah.
It's strange, but like you look at someone, I look very confident and all that sort of stuff, but I have very bad.
I think the
imposter
biggest
syndrome.
thing there is, for most people, I mean, not Foxtel. I mean, I never had Foxtel, but it's like 3 meals and just like Wi-Fi and just like, that's just like normal
Yeah.
living. It's like, that's just like, if you try and tell a young kid or a teenager, they go, oh, like I had 1 meal or like I moved houses this many times, they're just like, like this doesn't make sense. So if like, for you to like look at 3 meals in a nice house as like, holy fuck, this is amazing.
Yeah, it was like
just gives you so much it gives the people context of like what people's circumstances are really, really like in terms of like,
Even the other thing was just like not fighting. Yeah, like so when you grow up in like low socioeconomic home, there's obviously a lot of domestic violence and stuff. But it was like constant fights and alcohol bouts and neighbors punching on and like there's a lot of violence when you live in those sort of areas. So not seeing that and just being like not having to worry about someone coming to our house and steal shit. Yeah, and like not having to worry about those sort of things. It was like it was an anxiety that I actually had to battle. And be honest, I actually went to psychology to sort of like untrain myself from being like that. Yeah, and like so
having your guard up, be on edge.
always, and I
yeah.
still do. Like even with talk about this stuff now, where people recognize me. At the beginning, I thought people were trying to find me, and it's like that's the way that I'm wired. So I'd go out and people would look at me, and I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta get out of here. Yeah, like these dudes are trying to staunch me and try and punch on me because that's how I grew up, and it's like. Now I'm sort of getting better at it, but like there's other situations that are going to arise. But I definitely do. Like I think that people looking at me because of the way I've grown up, now I've got to retrain myself again. That hey, not everyone's trying to fire.
There's a conception that psychologists, if you go to a psychologist, you're like fucked in the head or you've got issues. I don't think that's the case at all.
No
I
way.
think they're the best thing. Even if you're sane in the sense of like you've had a good upbringing, whatever it is, I think they're great to go speak to. Like speaking to a psychologist and a professional or a coach of some sort, they're great to speak to.
I wouldn't be where I was today if I didn't go see psychologists. Yeah, and so like I've gone through the ringer and I've figured it out and I've become a better person, a stronger person mentally in every aspect of my life because I was man enough to go see a psychologist and I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, and like there's nothing weak.
I have too.
Yeah, there's nothing weak about becoming better. Yeah, like say if you're going to go do sprints and the thing and train yourself to become fitter, everyone hears you. Do the same shit. Go to a psychologist, learn how to make your brain stronger, and fucking become brain fit. Yeah, and like so, I feel as though like that's a lot of my success. I would attribute to the work that I did on myself, knowing that there was some things wrong with me. Yeah, like thinking that people are going to try and punch on me because they look at me and want a photo.
I think one thing that you said, and again, Gaz speaks about it a lot, is like you literally said, it's like, I was man enough to do this. And he always says like mental health, like, you're going through shit, speak up, you have to get it off your chest. I think it's a really, really good note to sort of wrap up on whether male, female, again, especially growing up the way you did or somewhat hoard or being around that stuff, it's sort of frowned upon. It's like, don't be a bitch, bro. Like, just shut the fuck up, keep moving on. And also, we need to move away from that.
Definitely.
And it's just like, no, if I can just tell you what the fuck's going on inside, I can probably move past it. It'd probably make me a better mate, a better partner, a better brother, and we can actually just live a better life instead of me holding it in and just being on edge, being angry all the time. And you're sort of having these traits of like, who's looking, why we're here, what's going on here, and just learn to sort of let that pass through is a fucking really, really big thing.
There's another big one, man, which I watch with other cultures, is that, you know, especially how I grew up, like Anglo-Saxons, like you don't say I love you to your dad, you don't hug them, you know, like there's a lot of like non-male affections in a sense. I watch like Samoans, I hang around a lot of Samoan lads, bro. They tell each other they love each other, they hug each other all the time. It's fucking beautiful, yeah. And like because you love your mates. That's the reality, right? So now, like that's a new step that I've taken is like I hug my mates. Yeah, when I see them, they're my best friends, they're my brothers, my family. I give them a fucking hug. Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with that, but like I want to sort of see those things get more and more normal better, because you know if you sat with a friend and said, "Hey, do you love your best mate?" Of course they're going to say yes, yeah. But would they tell him? No way. And it's like why? Like why would you not? It's wild, man. So that's like I don't know. We can be better and stronger in different ways, but. I'm not going to call it toxic because it's not. You know, masculinity is like something we need, but at the same time, it's like, you know, there's nothing wrong with fucking
boundaries and there's lines.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with telling your mates you're going through a bit of a shit go, or you know that you love them or whatever. It's like I think that makes us stronger, not weaker.
I don't know if it was Jeffrey Morgan that did it with the association of those other guys, but he did a video. I'm not sure if you saw it where they had.
Man, it was fucked up.
That
cried, was man.
I teared up.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
No.
So we got this guy to call their friends, and they had to tell their friend they loved them, and every single one of their friends was like, "You're okay?" Straight away, they're like,
"Oh yeah,
all right?"
Yeah. You guys, all right? Why are you telling me that?
And they're like, and then I'm like, in my head, like that's why I sort of cried, like I teared up, whatever. But I'm like, that's what I would think. If one of my friends called me and said he loved me, I'd be like, "Man, you all right? Like, do you need me to come see you?" Isn't that fucked?
It's fucked. Yeah,
it's actually fucked.
Do you know why? Because do you remember what happened when Bill messaged me? So we were doing a podcast 2 years ago. I got a message from my best mate. He goes, "I love you. Thank you for everything." And I was like, something's not right. Long story short, we literally left everything and there was like his garage doors open, some rope hanging, whatever. But it's like, because it's so uncommon, when you hear it, you instantly think that something is wrong and it shouldn't be like that. It should just be like, oh, fuck, what a sick cunt. Danny loves me. Like, what a mad cunt, bro. Like, well, I appreciate him.
So I'm trying to do that stuff, but it's even uncomfortable for me. Yeah, but again, 100%. I'm real big on being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Yeah. So I'm trying to do that sort of shit. So I think
it's not an overnight thing though. It's something you need to get used to.
It's progressive.
It's good, but like, you know, like I started doing the hug thing with my friends like 2 years ago, and now we all do it.
Yeah, it's
mad. Yeah, like so, and that was copied off Samoans, bro. Yeah.
I love their culture. They're great.
Yeah.
I think just one thing quickly to wrap up on before we do finish up. In terms of the business side of the alcohol and everything, did you have a mentor? Because it's like, it's one thing to, I guess, promote a club, manage it, also manage your own club, then do sort of the other business aspect. But getting into the sorts of like alcohol,
the term
licensing,
is actually,
distribution, how did that all happen?
The term is FMCG, is the term they use. So it's like, don't know what it stands for. It's like food manufacturing, cold goods or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes and no. So one of my business partners had dabbled in the space, so he had more like he kind of knew more, if that makes sense. But no, we were fucking blind, man. Like our product went viral and we had to figure it out backwards. And again, I guess it goes back to that backing yourself, you know. So as these opportunities blow up, we say yes, we'd figure it out. Yeah. And we would ask people and talk to people and do what we needed to do. Definitely reach out. Like people who are afraid to reach out blows my mind too. Like I'll have friends that are like, you know, oh, I want to work at this place, and I'm like, just message the guy that runs it and ask him to take him out for a coffee. Like, but which I did a lot. Like, you know, there's times where I was like, I don't know how to do this, so I connected through with someone who knew someone, and then I said, can I take you for a coffee and ask the question? So I think that I didn't have a mentor, no, but I was very open to learn. Yeah, and I would message guys and be like, hey, you don't know me. I understand that you own this company. I own a company too. I would love to take you out for lunch. And then I'd just be like, this is the issue I'm confronted with me. What would you do? And 9.9 times out of 10, that person will tell you. Yeah. And then you make a new friendship too. So it's like, don't be scared to like talk to people. Yeah. Like to learn. Like there's nothing wrong with not knowing something.
Well, that's networking essentially.
Yeah. But it's like, if you don't know, someone else does. So like you go and talk to them, and then, you know, you might be able to help them too. So it's like, my network is very strong. I'd say I'm not going to say it's one of the best in Australia, but it's fucking pretty good. Like there's a long list of like celebrities, sports stars, like billionaires, millionaires that I have in my contact book. And the reason why I do is because at some point I've probably contacted them or I've met them through a friend, and then I've said, hey, I'd love to take you out for coffee and pick your brain. Yeah. And so do that. Like that's, if you want to be better or you want to learn more, you want to do, even you guys message me out of nowhere. Yeah. And I say yes, like 9 times out of 10, that person will write back and be like, yeah, all right. Or, you know, but don't. I guess the thing is, for my advice is like, don't ask them for something. Just say, "Can I take you for a coffee?" Yeah, like don't say, "I want this from you. Can you help me with this?" Da da da. Just be like, "I'd love to catch up and share your lunch."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the final thing is too, you've shared some stories on your social media of some stuff that has happened in your career from event managing New Zealand, all that sort of stuff, which we did have a look into. What has been the biggest thing that's happened, or your biggest lesson, both from the nightclub scene and also business wise? What's been the biggest throughout your life? What have you turned around and been like, oh yeah, this is my biggest lesson and this is how I overcame it?
Well, to be fair, like there's actually so many, so it'd be impossible to say. But it's like every industry. Like for argument's sake, I started a burger joint, so this is probably a good example. And I was like, cool, burger joints were popping off. I designed it. It was called Got Beef. I did this whole like fit out, which is mad fun. And then I didn't learn how the industry works. So I was just like, we'll be right. We'll just figure it out as we go. And then I started up the business, which put money into it, probably like $100,000 between me and my partners. Opened it up, did like 10 grand in the first week. And then the next week did like 7. And then at the end of the month, I was like, because we had a manager and assistant manager, there was like $300 in dividends. And I was like, what the fuck? You know, I put all this time into this. I've driven down to this place. It's been pretty like labor intensive for $300. And then I quickly realized that the only way to make money from this business is to be an owner, operator, right? So what I did was I basically then threw in the towel. Like not threw in the towel, the business still ran, but I sort of said, who wants this? I'm going to move on. You can keep even the money. I didn't want the money back because I knew that like it wasn't worth my time and reward in a sense. There was no real reward in it. But like I would say my thing would be diving in too quickly. Like a lot of the time emotion gets involved and then I'm just like, fuck, mad idea. This is going to be sick fun. And I don't sit there and actually do the maths, if that makes sense. So the lesson I've learned from that, plus other things, is now that I sit there and I really do an extensive P&L, I do an extensive research, I talk to people in that field before I let my emotion grab me, and I just do something because I think it's going to be cool. Yeah, and so that's probably the lesson that I've learned. But another one, man, is like with the booze stuff, like this is something that is really kind of interesting, but I think it's worth telling people. Those businesses are so fucking big. So like this cash flow thing, right, which I don't know if people, hopefully people have businesses that own it, but we're doing millions of dollars of turnover, right? But with millions of dollars of turnover, there's terms. So terms can be 30 to 60 days, so people don't pay you. So then you need millions of dollars of turnover to continue to make the product so you can be in this term. So you're in this like perpetual fucking rollover of coin. Like so on a P&L, your business is turning over millions and millions and millions of dollars, but you're not seeing any money. Like and on a P&L, you've got dividends, but the dividends is being swallowed up because of the gap. Yeah. And so that's the thing, a lesson I learned. I was like, sweet, we're going to hit this amount of money. I'm like, I'm going to be a millionaire, going to go buy a Ferrari. And then it's like, I didn't. Yeah. And so that was a really good lesson to learn.
Like, where is it?
Yeah. I can see it. It's going in and out of the bank. Yeah. But it's like, it's not going to be there. But like running these ideas of, you know, if you're looking at someone who runs a big business, don't automatically think they're successful. It may be a giant business, but they also might not be successful. Yeah. And so that's something that I've learned along the way is that don't judge a book by its cover, because a lot of people will be to me like, oh, you know, you're a millionaire or this guy's killing it and rah rah. And I know a dude who's an electrician who has one employee who's making more money than the guy who's got 50 dudes that doing $1 million contracts. Yeah, and so that's sort of I guess a lesson that I've learned.
One more thing I wanted to touch on is the whole G-Up thing, because obviously you're part owner of that, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So was that like sort of by choice that you sort of don't push out in terms of being the front face? You always sort of want to let the boys do it. Did they come to you? Was it sort of a joint idea type thing?
So the reason why I do a bit, but to be honest, because it was choice thing. Like my platform blew up a year after. That makes sense. So I was like, I didn't want to be that guy to sort of like, oh, now I'm involved with this, if that makes sense. So I still do, like, don't get me wrong, like I ran their parties and I've done content around it.
Yeah, I saw you at the pink party last year.
Yeah. And I do things, bits and pieces with them and, you know, share stuff and whatnot. But it's like, it's Troy's idea, it's his baby, and he heroes it, and I want that to be the case, yeah. Like so, it's those boys like Adrian and Nick and Oscar. It's their thing. We facilitate it. We're with their business. We work beside them. They're our partners. Great guys, fucking love them. But it's their thing, their baby, yeah. And so from my end, it's like I definitely support, but I try not to be disruptive to them. But yeah, they effectively didn't come to us. Troy came to me with the idea that he was working on this with someone else, and I took it from those people because we had a prior relationship and we worked together. So we run it for them, but for all intents and purposes, those dudes run the business. We just do the boring shit, which is like moving stuff around and, you know, doing their day to day and whatnot. But it's Troy and Co's brand, and you know, when they want me and they need me to do stuff, I'm fucking, of course I'm going to, because they're my guys.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I don't want to like try and take any shine off of what they're doing because it is their thing.
That's really, really cool that you have that, because a lot of people have done the opposite. They go, oh, fuck, I can be famous with Troy and Adrian. Like, let me just jump on the bandwagon and like try and take the light off them. But it's really, really cool that, again, it's like, I guess I wouldn't say it's humble, but it's just like, you're not like, I'm doing my part. I'm helping. Cool. Let them do what they need to do. I'm just going to just do my part to keep this thing going.
I think my thing too is like, obviously when I blew up, people didn't realize who I knew. But I didn't blow up because of the people that I knew.
Yeah,
that's big as well. That's sick. You
so,
blow up because of you.
Yeah, so people kind of were like, who is this guy? And then they're down there. Like, maybe that's why it happened so quickly. But people were like, oh, okay, what the fuck, is this guy? There's a photo with him with this guy. What the hell? 3 years ago, he was with this guy. So it's like they kind of worked out the pieces backwards. But I didn't leverage on anybody or do anything like that. So that's why I sort of, I never wanted to do that. But at the same time, like all those guys I've known for a long time. They're fucking legends.
Fuck, that's sick.
And it's more so you can say that you did it on your own. You know, you're not.
It's not even for that for me. It's just like, it's not even about that. Like, it's just more so that, it's my own thing now. Like, it's not, I don't owe anyone it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm doing my thing. I'm making my own content. I'm telling my own story. And like, I don't have to like owe anyone anything. It's like, if someone wants to work with me, then awesome. But at the same time, it's like, it's my standalone thing. Yeah. Like, it's not because of someone else that happened. So I guess it's a kind of a cool feeling to have that.
100%. Danny, that was a fucking phenomenal chat. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for telling us all the multiple stories, the good, the bad, the ups, the downs. Again, a lot of people don't like to share the shitty side of things, whether it be business or life, especially the whole psychology thing and sort of manning up was a really, really big thing. I'm so happy we touched on that. So for those of you who aren't following Danny on Instagram and TikTok, do yourself a favor, jump onto it, and I'm sure we'll touch base in the future. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks, guys.
Legends.